welcome to UFO Secret Space. And I'm your host, Janet Lesson, and I'm here with a bunch of people. We're having a panel today with Richard Knight, Susan Johnson, Theresa J. Morris, and Bruce Cornet will be joining us for the second half. So, very exciting show today. We're doing this every Friday from 8 to 10 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific, and 3 p.m. Hawaii time. And we have all the time zones because we have people from all the time zones here most of the time. This is not a call-in show. I've had trouble managing these wild people that come on and say profound and first things, so I'm not going to be clicking on the button. I know you have comments. You can write to us at aquarianradio@gmail.com, and if you have a question for me or any of our panel members, we will ask the questions on a future show. And if you want to come on as a little guest with your 5-10 minute story about your encounters with extraterrestrials, I will set up a private call with you to vet you before you come on the show. But that was a big learning curve. Susan was on that show, I think it was last week or the week before, and I can't have profanities. This is a family-oriented show, I think, on some of them. Okay, first we're going to start with Richard Knight, and Richard's going to talk for about 5 to 10 minutes, and he's going to tell us, who are you, Richard Knight, and what brings you to our round table? The Knights of the Round Table. Wow, isn't that interesting?
This is correct.
Aloha, Richard.
Aloha. How are you, Janet and TJ and Suzanne? I hope you're all having a lovely evening.
I muted them for now because I want you to tell your story uninterrupted for the next 10 minutes. So all eyes and ears on Richard Knight and his story. Take it away.
All right, here goes. First and foremost, I hope this doesn't rock your cradles or blow out your windows, but here comes a big advent. Here comes a big advent at y'all, all right? I come from the 16th dimension, so I am only part human from the aspect being that my separation from God and the universe has never transpired. I had the full perception of God and the universe upon my birth, and basically it was very useful that was so because during my early childhood, I was subjected to a great deal of abuse, a great deal of rejection, and there were all kinds of craziness going on, while at the same time enjoying the benefit of having 14 senses instead of the regular 5. To give you examples of these, of course, clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, the ability to transmute objects by physically gripping them, the ability to heal, the ability to create fire in the palms of my hands, the ability to levitate, and telekinesis for openers. All right? So as you can imagine, if someone like me were to be boarded at a Catholic boarding school, the nuns and the priests were freaking and claiming that I was the son of the devil incarnate. So that was my opening. Okay? And there, from that, I represent a long lineage tradition of both witchcraft and druidism, in which I was being initiated into and brought into the family trad while still being boarded at this Catholic school. So this opened upon me the tremendous curiosity that became insatiable over time to this point in my life where I now hold 4 doctorates, one in theology, one in divinity, one in religious science, and the other in metaphysics. In addition to my spiritual track, I am also and have been a civil criminal investigator since the age of 19. I am presently now 65, and I hail from the great state of California, from the city of Santa Monica. I have had probably too many supernatural and paranormal experiences to count and detail without actually writing a book, which I have done so, okay? That's how vast and vigorous my experiences in the paranormal and even in contact with ETs and UFOs as well. So I have a vast array of all kinds of stories and experiences to share, and this has been my background. In other words, I have been living proof of a spiritual being incarnate in the flesh and being very aware of exactly who I am. And as my life and path journey have progressed, of course, I have become very well educated. And in order to back up both my positions in the spirit realm, or the spiritual realm, you could say, and my law enforcement realm, which is criminal justice, I also have an associate's, bachelor's, and master's degree in criminal justice. I have had over 45 years of self-employment as a civil criminal investigator, and I have also worked for the federal government with Department of Justice, the Immigration Department, with over 5 years' experience there, and I have also worked for the State Authority of Georgia as a probation officer, starting out as a probation officer, going to a supervisory probation officer, and eventually taking over an office of 12 probation officers who I audited, schooled, and told right procedure to, over a 3-county area with a caseload of roughly 4,500 juveniles and their families over a 6-year period in 2 different districts. So, in addition to that, I love to write. I'm a poet, a published poet with the International Society of Poets, and have been published in many anthologies and am winning all kinds of awards from that society as far as like Poet of the Year and things of this nature. In addition, I am a very thirsty person when it comes to knowledge. So I have studied in depth all of the various genres of literature in regards to the paranormal and the self-development and the self-awareness, as well as being upon the trip of self-enlightenment, as one would call it, from around 1965 to the present. So that's 55 years in that particular area. In addition to this, I have been studying the martial arts since the age of 9, and I now possess 4 black belts in the martial arts, the highest of which being 5th Dan Grand Master in Kung Fu. I study and was aware of and proficient in 18 styles of the martial arts. I have done black op operations for our federal government, of which I cannot speak because the information is classified. I have done surveillance for the federal government against organized crime, and I have also arrested judges and law enforcement for racketeering, thinking themselves to be above the law and victimizing the general public, and they are all in federal prison now serving a 25-year term. So that's a little bit about me.
Okay, good. So you're past the talking stick. Okay, let me just let me turn off my timer. I have a timer so we don't go very long. Okay.
Well, I don't even know how long I was, you know.
It's okay. You were about 8 minutes. That's good.
Okay.
And there's some kind of
That's
feedback.
a happy
Is somebody talking in the background? Is somebody talking in the background?
Yes, unfortunately.
Okay.
Would you like me to go outside?
Privacy? I don't know. Just auditory privacy.
Okay, hang on a second.
You could muzzle them.
Well, this wasn't expected. Okay, this was not expected or planned or foreseen.
I see. Okay, that's okay.
It is one of them spontaneous moments, and they are on the phone with a relative long distance, so, you know.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I'm going to put you on mute then, and I'm going to bring on Susan. So, here we go.
So I'll still be able to hear.
Susan. Yes. Okay, Susan. Hold on, the mic is coming on.
Yeah,
Susan.
hello.
So, hi. So, 10 minutes. Tell us your basic story and the top things that you want our listeners to know starting now. About you. Starting now.
Actually, around the age of 5. Yeah, how are you? I'm good.
Good.
Actually, around the age of 5, I had a so-called dream. I don't think it was a dream. I think it was a scout scene, or it was a scene, because most abductees and experiencers, they'll remember it later on as a dream or something, which I found out by speaking to various UFO investigators. But at 5, I had an experience where I thought there was these little kids that were my height. And I figured, oh, good, I could play with them and have somebody to play with. And I started to play with them, and they started shooting lasers at me. And somehow I spontaneously produced a beam out of my hands, and I was pointing my hands at them. And then 2 or 3 of my ET people appeared behind me and vaporized one of them, and the other 3 fled. At 7, I had a recurring dream that we were coming into the Earth's solar system, and we were bouncing off the gravitational fields of the planets before we were entering into the upper stratosphere upper atmosphere of the Earth, and a black hole opened up, and I woke up, and everybody, the other crew, which was a human Nyandan crew instead of an ovoid or an Archeron Nyandan crew, that they were still asleep, and I was awake. I'm a navigator, and I said, shift the mass to the black hole, not away from it, because the physics changes when you go into various different dimensions. And they shift the mass to away from the black hole, and we got obliterated. And I was born here in 1960, and since then that was the dream. I'd wake up and I would be cross-legged, facing the closet, all shooken up. And I had that dream like 3 or 4 times. Then when I was at the library, I would study every paranormal book, psychology book, physics book, UFO book, astronomy, trying to figure out what was happening to me, the special relativity, general relativity, everything. And I accelerated my IQ like about 10 or 20 points. And then I skipped 3 grades in grade school, and I graduated on time in 79 from a public high school. And then I got an AS degree in physics, an AS degree in electronic engineering technology, or electronics for short, AS degree in plant mechanical maintenance with a dean's list, straight A's, AA degree in physics. I got certifications in HAZWOPER, OSHA. I got DOE Core Level 1 certification for RAD protection, which is Radiation Protection Health Physics Tech. I passed the Northeast Utilities Test, which allows you to work at the northeastern power plants as a health physics tech. I have like 25 years senior decontamination experience, and I was also a valve tech and an apprentice boiler maker, and also a laborer. And I was a junior health physics tech for like 3 power plant outages. I'm forcibly retired. I've had ongoing alien experiences all my life. I'm connected with, I remember all my past lives and the original universe of where our people came from. Presently, we're working with it on our own, and we were called in and commissioned by the Universal Council of One, which is seated in Cygnus, the Orion councils and stuff, because they needed our help, because we ended the Lyran Wars. And that's why the Star Wars is based on the Lyran Wars. And when they say the Force be with you, they mean us. We are a unique force. I was told we were a force embodiment. And then back in 2015, and I also work. We came in when we were called in and commissioned. We came in through Taurus, from the other side of Taurus, the Aleactron universe, on the backside of Taurus, through Aldebaran, and what is now the Crab Nebula. It used to be called Budotan, and it went supernova, and it became the Crab Nebula. And then we were all killed because we were the last group of our kind to stay back to shoot neutral radiation and to the star before it went supernova, to redirect the beam away from the life vein that's running through the sector. And then we succeeded. We tried to get out of there, but we didn't make it in time. And then Orion ship came, and they captured our souls, and they made clones of our bodies, and they reanimated us on board the ship, and blue tubes, silica tubes, or jelly tubes. And then after that, we went to Cygnus, and that's where we settled, and a planet called Archeron, which is either in Cygnus X1 Deneb, or Beta Sig or Gamma Cygni, or it could Lambda Cygni, or it could have been R4 or Sat R4 or something. 2 or 3 planets, and they hosted us, and they allowed us to stay there. That's 2 or 3 of the planets we live on. We come from the Urfactinum Urfactianum universe, and back in 2014, I was told that symbol on my right ankle means Urfactinum Urfactianum. And when I did some spiritual work, I went on the spiritual website and I looked at symbols, and the symbol that I have indicates warrior. And I go, oh, that's just great, because I've been told lately in the past 10 years that I'm a warrior, a light warrior. And I am a multidimensional being, and I've been told as high as 22 dimensions. And I don't know if I have clear audio or clairvoyance or anything like that, but I do have a good perception. And those are my ongoing experiences. And I think I'm working with several fleets up there fighting. Maria Calvin Hill actually photographed various ships on the backside of the sun and around the Earth and I get a strong impression that those are our fleet. And then Bruce Cornet mentioned a book called The Masquerade of Angels, and then chapter 21, it gives you a good idea of how insidious the evil is that's coming into this sector. And we're here to fight it. And because we ended the Lyran Wars and we collapsed the universe in the backside of Draco, and a lot of them, because it was parasitic, evil, disembodied entities that were sucking the life force out of the universe, and some of them escaped into the portals. And then that's when we were called in, because they were targeting the lower evolved, lower dimensional beings that live in a dualistic reality instead of the trialistic reality that governs most of the universe. And now we got to finish the job. That's basically it. There's a lot of conflict between the humans, the ETs. They demonize us. They vilify us. We're going to make our presence known. We show our mottos all over the world. We'll see UFO armadas all over the world. That's us showing our presence and our force to let everybody know that we're the good guys and we're after the evil. And that's basically it right now. We got to eliminate the evil, but the humans have to play their part by becoming more awakened and more aware and regain their individualism and their self-preservation and proclaim the sovereignty of their race on this planet. We also do a lot of planetary synthesis, planet creation, stabilization and stuff. And we've been fighting negative factions of the Secret Space Fleet, but there's two factions that are positive that are working with us. And it's just really horrific. I've been on a lifelong quest to try to find others on this planet from my group that are in physical form, and I think I'm not going to find anybody because so far nobody showed up.
Okay, anything else? You have 1 minute and 50 seconds. Or do you want to pass the talk?
Even though I have a deep voice, I'm not transgender. I'm not homosexual. I'm straight if I was to be active down here, but I'm asexual down here. I'm only attracted to my own kind. And I'm heterosexual. And I have a deep voice because it's partly because, I don't know if it's because I have Asperger's syndrome. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which I think is a neurological rewiring because they said their neurological wiring is different. I think there's a lot of star seeds and everybody coming in, as per Mary Rodwell, certified nurse in the UK that does work with Asperger's people, said that they remember their past lives and their star seeds, but I'm an alien hybrid incarnate. I'm not just a star seed. I'm an alien incarnate hybrid. And they told me how they did the in utero and vitro and everything. And my family's had ongoing experiences too. But I think there were different races than mine. And the deep voice also part of the Native Americans tend to have deep voice too.
Excellent. Okay. So we'll come back to you. We're going to keep going around here and get the short 10-minute or less intro from each person. So let me put you on mute. And Bruce showed up, so I will have Bruce. Hi, we're doing like a 10-minute. Wait, okay, here it is. Bruce, we're doing a 10-minute intro on ourselves, who we are, our background, maybe our education, our paranormal or extraterrestrial experience, and what brings us to our show today. Welcome to the show, Bruce.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, did you hear what I said about we're doing 10-minute intros about ourselves? Yes, if you would like to, I'm going to set the timer because people tend to get long-winded, and then I'll let you know when you've got about 1 minute or less. But you can pass it if you want to go less. It's fine. You can just say I'm done talking. I'm passing. We have an invisible talking stick that we pass back and forth.
Well,
okay?
maybe I should go last so I can get a gist of what the others are contributing.
Okay, well, then the next one will be Theresa. So you're passing to Theresa, so let me mute you, and I'll put on Theresa. And hold on 1 second while I do these, a little bit of a delay. So, Theresa, you've got 10 minutes, and I'll let you know when it's the last minute. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. This is Theresa Jeanette Thurmond Thomas Morris. I identify as a androgynous being from another place in space and time. As far as my intelligence goes, in this reality, I conform to being a humanoid, sentient, intelligent being by choice. And for the sake of this reality show, or lack of reality, I am a cosmos ambassador in this reality, and I do psychic work for various people that hire me. And I also train entrepreneurs as a CEO of a corporation. And off planet, I do Life Between Lives, and I was signed up to do this, what we call epoch, as a very, very old soul with lots of memories prior to what is recorded on this planet, which we used to call the Akashic Field, but now it's become more than that, because we have been able to define it while I was working here on the planet in this reality. My first president I met, Harry S. Truman, through to President Reagan, and I did not meet Clinton or Trump, but they know of me. So in this reality, I'm considered T.J. Morris E.T. That's my brand. I have T.J. Morris. I have created for the world the Allied Command Intergalactic Relations. Off planet, I am a universal life force that works in a large command that is universal. We go in and out of various universes. In this reality, this one that I'm talking in, I am considered a guardian of the galaxy, and I have worked at the highest level in a quadrant for this universe, strictly as an observer and also a communications officer. Now, my partner in life that is deceased in this reality worked directly for the president, as I did, President Reagan. We are, in this reality, we are retired from Department of Defense, he was Department of Army, I was Department of Navy. We both were intelligence officers. I have been a private investigator, legal investigator, and trained in personnel and information security with some of the best in the world. I have traveled the world. I'm a world traveler. Let's see, what else would you need to know? I'm presently working as a government contractor, even though I have officially retired. I have 50 years in service from May 10th, 1967 to May 10th, 2017 with our Office of Personnel Management. If you study how we've set up the government with the Constitution of the United States, you can learn about all that and all the changes that have happened since I got out. With regards to the reality here that we've created with UFO groups, I am the original Ascension Center Oracle, and I am also the original UFO Association, the original. I started with Stanton T. Friedman and George Filer, and Canada, and the United States of America, and the international acclaimed command officers that were retired, reservist, Army, DOD, GS, WG, wage grade. And so I represent in radio since 2012 with several people that are veterans. They want to tell their stories before they pass on. Prior to 2012, when I became in radio, I worked for UFO Digest in Canada as a contributor, publisher, writer, and I helped Dirk Vanderplug, who is a well-known publisher in Canada, and before I met him, he was very interested in why I talked about Andromeda, and we discovered, he thought that was odd that in my repertoire choice, Jim Mars, Richard Dolan, a lot of people, Alfred Lambert, Weber, a lot of names you may know in the UFO industry, knew of me and talked to me via Canada. But a lot of this was classified, a lot of this was above top secret, and Stanton T. Friedman went to his grave never divulging who I was. But he and I both worked on the Roswell story. I worked with Don Berliner Dr. Bruce Maccabee helped me and Janet in 2015 begin the Alien Contact Organization. I have since separated out from Mutual UFO Network, which in 2012 I ran one of the first advertisements. Stanton T. Friedman opened my show after I'd had a couple of shows with Janet Carroll Lesson to do Stargate to the Cosmos. So you may know that she and I have known each other on this world since 1993, and we'll be coming out with our timelines. But she met me as a psychic at Psychic. I had Psychic Network. I was CEO in Hawaii, and let's see what else. Spiritual World Network, and I was asked to take over your spiritual center as president, CEO of a corporation. I ran the Spiritual World Network, and I was on radio there, television. People came over and filmed me from India. I've been on various radio shows, but I did not want to, so I waited to come out till August 2007. I was told I broke the internet, and the Catholic Church came out and Russia was like, what you doing? So I claim August 2007 as my coming out as an extraterrestrial entity on the planet telling my stories, but people thought them as fiction, and that's okay with me. So I since then wrote about 20 to 40 books, lost count. So I'm considered an author, a publisher. My family ran a publishing company. My imprint was Timely Manner Books. I was president CEO, as I said, of a corporation. I became a multimillionaire, 33, when I was age 12 on my first Rolls Royce. So I had the power to manifest, which the government was very impressed with. So the actual smoking guy that you see in X-Files was my handler named Carl Reichert out of Chicago area, but I guess he was in D.C. and held the desk there for 40 or 45 years. But I didn't know what those were. So Dr. Richard Allen Miller has been my colleague, and he is a GS-18. We both have an IQ that was once registered at 168 plus, both others 175. And he is my colleague, and we are building a new reality with esoterics, wisdom, what we call the occult, which just means unknown or undefined, or it's used in a lot of ways. But basically, I relate as an interfacer. One of the jobs which I didn't want to admit to anyone until my husband died because of intelligence work. I was told this to say I work for the State Department. But I worked with Bob Dean, and we worked with Allied Command Europe. I worked the European Theater in uniform, out of uniform, through the International Police, with some names I won't drop right now because it's too soon. And I have been known as a researcher for APRO, NICAP, QFOs. I personally met J. Allen Hynek for the sake of the show. He asked me overhead in a jet to please help him. I didn't know he was asking me that he died. I was supposed to meet with him in Colorado with his secretary. I was flown to Edwards Air Force Base. I guess we had to talk with some other people in the Navy and Air Force, and then I went to Lowry Air Force Base and did some training, Black Ops, stuff like that. But as far as people that care about what kind of military training I have, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine.
One more minute, TJ.
All right. I crossed over. I ran for all Joint Chief of Staff in Sea or Mariner. So I've been working globally and internationally, and I'm just here to observe and communicate. And I really identify right now with the cyborgs and the AI and the robots, and bringing in what we used to know were just interfacers. So I didn't want to do this job, but I volunteered for it, I guess. So that's who I am. I'm here to help at the Ascension Age. It's a whole new paradigm. So thank you, Janet Carroll Lesson, for being my friend.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next person is Bruce Cornet. And Bruce, I'm putting you on off of mute. I think you can talk. Try talking now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead. 10 minutes.
Okay. My background is very different from that of Theresa and Susan. I didn't get involved in all of this subject until 1992. And before that, I was a straight-laced scientist working at colleges, universities on paleontology, geology, and palynology. And I have many publications and sub-books on that subject, but that was my previous career. Now I am doing writing about my experiences since 1992, when my career took a sharp, hard right-hand turn. And I ended up discovering that I lived right near a UFO hotspot near Pine Bush, New York. And I contacted Dr. Ellen Crystal, who had just written a book, Silent Invasion, on all of the activity in my own backyard. And as a scientist, I was very curious about what was going on. And she took me out into the field on the very first night I was out there. I saw things I could not explain, and I was literally captivated. This continued for 11 years. I started a research project in the field with equipment, with cameras, audio and visual and magnetometers, and collected an enormous amount of data and accumulated over 140 close encounters. One thing that Ellen had in the field, which was very different, was that the craft would follow her around. And when I went out with her, they started following me around too. And we would go to specific locations in Orange County, New York, and set up our cameras, and the craft would literally come to us and put on performances in the night sky. They, with their plasma lights, would create sky glyphs that I would capture on time exposures, and then piece the pictures together to understand what type of figure they were creating in the night sky, and there were quite a few. I never got very close to these craft. They would always keep their distance from us. They would lift off from neighboring fields and arc over us and then dive into fields or forests behind us. So this really interested me, and I wanted to get to the basis of who were they and what was this. Everybody that went out there sky watching thought that this was, they were aliens. And in my 11-year research, I was able to accumulate enough information to say to exclude the possibility that we're dealing with some faction of the U.S. military, perhaps working with the ETs. But the technology that I saw and experienced in the field was extraordinary by any means. They were able to read my mind when I was taking pictures and know exactly when I was opening and closing my shutter of my camera, and they would move and make movements in the night sky to coincide with those opening and closing of the shutter. So I was able to do experiments and determine that there was a telepathic communication, and I don't know of human pilots that are capable of doing that. In addition, I was able to determine that these ships, which were mostly angular ships, they were not round. Some of them were like the Tic Tac, but most of them were triangles and diamond-shaped craft. The manta ray was huge, about the size of a 747. But what was extraordinary is that these craft would come out of the ground and they would dive into the ground, into an underground base in a local area there, about 8 miles from Stewart Air Force and Army Base and International Airport near Newburgh, New York. So we had a lot of commercial air traffic and military air traffic flying over us, and these craft would mimic the lighting, the navigation, night lights, hazard lights of these conventional aircraft. They would also produce sounds. that would attempt to create audio camouflage, and they were quite successful at fooling the people on the ground. When they would hear the sound, they would say, "Oh, that's just a jet." But my analysis and recordings and frequency analysis showed that they were not normal jet sounds. They were synthetic sounds composed of at least 12 different frequencies, and they disobeyed the normal Doppler effect. They were reverse Doppler, and that has since been shown to be a product of anti-gravity craft. So that was a smoking gun that these craft were indeed not built by humans. And so I recently published a book called Unconventional Aerial Phenomena in the Hudson and Wallkill River Valley of New York. It was published in 2019, and you can buy it at Amazon.com. There are also hundreds of web pages that I generated since the late 90s, one for each of the encounters that we had in the field. And you can go to my web pages, just Google Dr. Bruce Cornet, and you can follow me into some of those web pages that are linked to other web pages and see all of the data that I published in my book. My life has been quite extraordinary from the standpoint that I never realized that when in 1981, March, with a discarnate voice, asked me if I was ready to serve God and do whatever he asked me to do. When I said yes, he asked me to take care of a woman that was in need and that he would bring her to me, which he did. And I met her in late 1983, and lived with her for exactly 7 years. And she was an extraordinary woman. She died in 1991, and then came back in spirit and over her grave and to say her farewell. And I caught that on video, on camera, and I did a web page on that called The Passion of Bonnie. That was her name. And then I watched her spirit being beamed up into a second sun in an overhead cloud above her grave. And when I analyzed that images from the cloud, there was a huge, circular, dome-shaped white mothership embedded in that cloud. And that was my first clue that my late wife was an ET. And she came back to me and communicated with me telepathically for many years after that. And I believe that she was responsible for putting on those performances by the unconventional craft in the Wallkill River Valley of New York. So I'm basically here to back up all the other guests on the show with actual physical data that had been analyzed scientifically.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Bruce. Okay, good timing here. Okay, this next round, what we're going to do, I'm going to go back to Richard, who we've not met yet, Bruce, but I'm going to ask a question. Richard's going to ask a question of his own making. Oh, let me get this switched over. Okay, 1 second here. And we're all going to answer it. And I'd like everybody to keep their question down, their response down to 2 to 3 minutes, because that way we'll get 3 or 4 questions done in the course of the show. And Richard, you go first, ask the question, and answer your own question. Take it away, Richard.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Not like putting
once
you on
again,
the spot, huh? But go ahead.
Well, that's okay. I can handle it. No problem. Okay. My question is this. How long, to all of the panel's very, very extensive knowledge, have ETs and extraterrestrials been involved with the planet Earth?
Okay.
And an answer to that. Do I now?
Yeah, yep. You answer your own question now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I get to answer my own question?
Sure. and then we're going to have everybody else answer.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, my answer to the question is, roughly speaking, about generationally speaking, 50,000 years, roughly speaking, give or take. There have been many wars for the planet, as mentioned by our other panelists. There are still ongoing wars in the seventh dimension that are being carried on outside the expertise of experts here on the ground, as well as sensitives such as myself and all of the other panelists, obviously. And there have been many races that have come to the planet, including the Anunnaki, who held the human race into what you would call morphosized, where basically their mentality was completely controlled by the Anunnaki for at least a good 20,000 years. There has been an ongoing alien presence on this planet simply because the original created mass of the Earth was, in fact, a universal library that was kept by a half a dozen guardians that would rotate in and out of rotation in far as their incarnation was concerned, so that in turn this library would be an access to all of our universe and depository by all beings within our given universe, which contains about, I can't even tell you exactly how many galaxies. But anyway, that's my take on it. In other words, basically speaking, there has never really been true Earthlings per se, and if they were only here incarnate for one life before they became either mutated, ascended beings, or extraterrestrials from other planets, galaxies, or universes or dimensions.
Okay, and then express your question one more time before Susan answers. Susan's going to answer next.
Okay. My question to the panel is kind of short and sweet. In your take on things or your observed interactions with the same, how long have extraterrestrials been, basically intermixing or helping the human race here on Earth? How long has there been an ET presence on the Earth?
Okay, Susan, your turn.
Since before the beginning of the Earth. The Earth was specifically created as one of the primary focusing points on what they would call a matrix that's supposed to govern the baseline light harmonic resonance that regulates the nature of physical reality. There's several Earth-type planets throughout the rest of the universe. Each one of them is on a critical point of this matrix. And each universe is regulated by what they call a light harmonic resonance octave or a system. And so I understand it was multiple races that created the Earth. It was the Orion Council, mostly the Master and Creator beings from there, and maybe some from Sirius, and maybe some from, I want to say Andromeda or Pleiades. I'm not sure. Some of them, the common progenitors that are down here, and they got a large number of people that are following them, like the Palladians, the Arcturians, the Sirians, all that. Had a hand possibly in creating the Earth, and then after the Earth was created and activated and locked in to the dimensions and stabilized, there was a lichen phase and an igneous rock activation phase, terraforming phase. That's where the Bigfoots come in, because they're a terraforming type race that works with various different alien races in the universe. And then after the Earth was created and stabilized, there was 2 or 3 indigenous human colonies on the Earth itself. I know others say that there were 7 root races and stuff, but I think there was like 3 major indigenous human races, which means that their planetary identity matched their soul identity, because every planet has a planetary identity, and then as governed by the central planetary energy vortex. And then 5 human colonies were supplanted here. Right after Zeb Tepi, which would be called the golden time. That was when the indigenous humans and aliens that were colonists that used the Earth as an outpost coexisted out in open, and there was no secrecy or hidden agenda or anything at that time. And that's when all the pyramids and everything were created. They were not created by the Egyptians. They were created by other races that came here and had left before the 5 human colonies were put here. The Anunnaki interfered, and they screwed up the human genome, and the humans were supposed to be a multidimensional multi-coalescent being that was able to access higher realms and higher vibrations and stuff, specifically because of where they're located, which is a critical point. This Earth is in a critical strategic navigational point in this universe, where several converging dimensions occur, but also it's in this life vein that runs from Cassiopeia all the way through Auriga and Canis Major, which right. You got
can you wrap up your answer? Yeah, wrap up your answer. Okay,
yeah.
We'll go to the next person. Okay,
and the Anunnaki came, screwed up the human race, and that's what caused the wars to start.
How they turn off this timer? Shut up, timer. Okay, there we go. Thank you very much, Susan. That was funny. I couldn't get it to turn off. Okay, next respondent is Theresa. Hold on one second while I get this mic thing manipulated. Okay, Theresa, your turn to answer the question about how long have ETs been involved on the planet, and try to keep it around 3 minutes so we have a chance to get around with several questions. Okay, take it away. Are you there, Theresa?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead. Can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay,
yes.
regarding the story that we're promulgating tonight,
You're breaking up. You're breaking up.
I'm trying not to. I'm not doing anything. I'm not moving.
Okay. Go ahead, try again. Okay. We're having some sound problems. We'll come back to Theresa. Are you there, Theresa? Try one more time. Okay, we'll come back to Theresa. Okay, we'll give Bruce an opportunity to answer that.
Okay, thank you.
Bruce, you're live.
Yes, in response to Robert wanting to know or wanting to say how long he thinks the ETs have been involved with humans, he also asked how long, Richard, how long the ETs have been on Earth, and those are two different questions with two very different answers. I agree with him that interaction with humans probably goes back to at least 50,000 years. But in the Wallkill River Valley, I discovered something that was quite outrageous. In my geology work, I discovered that the original Cydonia complex on Mars was constructed in the Wallkill River Valley during the last interglacial, Eemian interglacial, over 118,000 years ago. And I was able to locate remnants after the glaciers retreated of the face, the tholus, the crater, the base to the D&M pyramid, and all of those features, and was able to age date the Cydonia complex on Mars based on continental drift on Earth, which was indicated that it was either built, the one on Mars was built either 50,000 years ago or 59,000 years ago, or it was built 118,000 years ago. Take your pick at this particular time, because the rate of continental drift could be 1 or 2 centimeters per year. And the second part of the question, how long has ET been on Earth? I did a 24 square mile magnetic survey of the area, and I discovered that there were underground magnetic activity, artificial activity going on. But the most extraordinary thing was I discovered an alien probe that had landed on an ancient island in an Ordovician sea over 400 million years ago. How do I know? Because it is completely embedded within Ordovician black shale, ocean shale, sitting on top of a granitic island. And it's now been, erosion has brought it to within 9 feet of the surface, and it is still functional and still sending signals out into space whenever the constellation Bootes is overhead. And these are very powerful signals that come out of it that I was able to measure with my magnetometer. And I was also able to determine that it is triangular in shape, about 565 feet on a side. And that is a huge structure, alien probe. And I found other ones sending signals out into space as well, indicating that this was a mining area for these extraterrestrials over 400 million years ago. And the granitic masses islands that they landed on are full of exotic minerals and rare earths. And a mine in Franklin, New Jersey. Franklin, New Jersey has produced hundreds of different types of minerals from these granitic masses. So it was a mining probe.
Thank you. We'll get back. Let's see, who's next? We're going to try Theresa again. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Okay.
Actually, I'll take a turn. From my understanding and the research, the story of the Earth goes back, and there's been life and species visiting here since its inception, which was X amount of billions of years ago, because different species indeed, come here to terraform the Earth, and they periodically do what's called interventionism. So they introduce other, species and plants and bugs and everything to experiment. How the hell will this grow and develop here? So the larger life forms apparently came here billions of years ago. I forget the name of the researcher. Dr. Cuomo. It's starting with this C. I've seen his presentation where he goes down through the layers of a mountain, and the lowest layer, which is built up or something. He comes in from the side, and he's found these giants. They're like 30, 40 feet tall, and occasionally you see these pictures of them getting washed up to shore or digs of them, and then of course people say it's all fake news. So we have the stories of these things, and I'm going to have Roger Spur of Mud Fossil University on the 20th on the show. He's going to talk about how everything is alive, and he's been doing the analysis, and there's these stories of these mountains that are actually a giant laid down, and he became fossilized, turned into rock, and some of them died, some of them turned into statues, like Medusa. We have stories of Medusa. So he's going to talk about that. But what I'm aware of is the Anunnaki. That's my area of expertise, and my doctor, my beautiful doctor husband, Dr. Lesson, has with myself. We've written 5 books instead of 6. One in the making. It's about religion and the Anunnaki. But they came here 450,000 years ago, and they were searching for gold to use back on their home planet. The main purpose of it was to coat the atmosphere because it was disintegrating and had holes in it, and the radiation was getting in and rendering everybody sterile and destroying the planet. And of course they synthesized it into a lot of atomic gold, and they used it for longevity. And then I think it was about 300,000 years ago, I don't have the book here, they created the first generation of Homo sapiens. They used the Homo erectus. They combined DNA, and they created this hybrid species. And then they did, fine-tuning where they interbred with the existing Homo sapiens and made Homo sapiens sapiens. So that's my, of course, that brings us to the modern era, and the extraterrestrials, the ETs are here in mass and different species, but the Anunnaki never left. They just are still ruling through their priests and kings and the demigods, which are the hybrid humans with a lot of royal DNA, and they're very selective, and they're kind of the ultimate races. And then we are all the children, so apparently we all have Anunnaki DNA. But back with the Lyran Wars and the treaty that was made, they agreed to combine all the DNA. So we have a reptilian stem, so we're part reptilian as well. Okay, so let me bring on Theresa. Let's give her a whirl here. And then we're going to go Susan, so you can start thinking about it. You're next with a question. Okay,
Okay, I heard
about
unmuted.
3 minutes.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I unmuted you. Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Regarding the word extraterrestrial, that has to be defined in ontology, but consider that I am considered ET. I also would suggest that the universe adds itself to before space and time, so we can't use linear time. So therefore, it's non-existent into the way that I would use folklore. But most of the ancient stories we tell ourselves for the sake of being humanoids, Homo sapiens sapiens, is based on the word. So where I come from, it's based on universal language, which was before anything to do with sound or vibrations or bandwidth or any type of description, because we didn't use words, okay? So it's very hard to communicate unless you don't communicate. So that's why I'm here to help with the word and observe and help communicate. That's part of my chosen extraterrestrial mission here. So regarding let's write the stories that write and thread the stories on the planet is I bring in all the universal codes. Before we had the photon memory in the what they call the grid. So I presently am working with a lot of theorists because science was taken from original philosophy. And right now they go back to Aristotle on the planet and create forward. However, as far as archaeologists, anthropologists, people that talk languages of the earth being extraterrestrial, I'm working with all those that understand that before humans existed, we had all biologicals. So to me, Earth is an extraterrestrial, and Earth is made up of former biologicals. But because they only on this reality, in this dimension, they only use carbon-based, what they call time in space. So unless it's carbon, you can't date it. So the Earth is ET, and I'm ET, and everybody is ET. So it's all ET to me, so that's my reality. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Susan, give me a second. What question? Hold on. There we go. What question do you have for everybody? And you're going to start by answering it yourself. You're going to ask it and answer it yourself. Are you there, Susan?
I'm here. I'm trying to think.
Okay.
I'm wondering how many of you think that the heaven and hell in the Bible, as described in the Bible, are not really places like heaven and hell, but in actuality, and also Nibiru, and also the scrubbing of the atmosphere using gold by the Anunnaki, all of that. Okay. How many of you think that, oh, well, they're just mining, the Anunnaki were just mining gold to restore their atmosphere? Or do you think maybe perhaps they were using the gold to actually, as baffles, as scrubbers, to clean an atmosphere and restore the ionic balance within that atmosphere that's in an enclosed ship called a surrogate planet class ship? Okay.
So put that in a question. If you can put it in a one sentence question.
Yeah.
Rephrase. Okay. Rephrase that.
Okay. How many of you think that the Anunnaki were just here just to mine the gold to restore the atmosphere on their planet? And how many think that, well, is it not really a planet but maybe a surrogate planet class ship?
Okay.
And then my answer. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That the Anunnaki came down here. They messed up the human genome. The humans were already here. I know because I was working with some ETs that supplanted a human race here, a colony, from an Earth that was in the fifth dimension. And the humans were very passive and docile and very friendly, and the animals and that fifth dimensional Earth was very aggressive and very hostile. And they put them here in the colonies and stuff, and the mountains to see how they would adapt. and then they had to be taken off world when we found out it was too harsh down here for that human colony from the fifth dimensional Earth, and we returned them back home. Okay, so the humans here were messed up by the Anunnaki because they decided to make them subservient and usurp them and dummy them down to make them slaves to mine their gold, and also slaves to be used as a commodity in trade and make slave armies and stuff. The gold was specifically mined, like I said, to become to be used in baffles inside of these surrogate planet-class ships to scrub the atmosphere of toxins and renormalize the ratios of the different gases in those enclosed atmospheric climate control systems. I know I used to work in some of the climate control systems on the ships, colony ships docketed in the backside of the sun, the moon, and the solar system. And as for heaven and hell, those are surrogate planet-class ships that are enclosed and are called Arcavanas. Nibiru is not a planet. It is another type of planet-class ship that goes around, and they can also offset the Earth's orbit and create the Great
30
Flood.
seconds.
And that's what they do. That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hold on. We're going to go turn on the mic for Richard. Back to Richard.
Wow.
Go ahead, Richard. Your answer.
I thought mine was complicated, but yours
panel of geniuses.
Just
bunch of nerds
just
here.
Really took us out there. Okay. All
yes.
right. First and foremost, do I believe in heaven and hell? Well, heaven and hell are the creation of the consciousness or the overall awareness of the body of mankind that has been propagated on down through history religiously. Okay, so you're talking about many millions of minds all coinciding together to create these interdimensional realities as a specific place in time, or at least a individual reality that can be experienced by anyone who so wishes basically to do so. For example, there's not just one heaven, there's actually 18 of them. For example, hell, there's not just one hell, there's 7 of them. As far as the Anunnaki is concerned, I do believe that, in fact, their mining colonization and excerpts upon this planet were a cover, a complete cover or disguise to the universe and the galaxy and, of course, our solar system at large to put off, or what you would call sleight of hand magic, to indicate that this is what they were here for and this is what they were doing, when in reality they were completely sent or completely had the alternative motive of completely dominating mankind and making mankind into their slaves. And that's pretty much my answer.
Thank you so much, Richard. Okay. Bruce, let me turn on your mic. What's your answer to that question?
I have studied religion over the last 30 years very intensely because I mentioned earlier that I spent 7 years to the day with Bonnie, my late wife. And she turned out to be, when she died, she came back and told me that she was an ET. She was, her name, was spiritual name was Kahra, capital K, small a, capital R, small a, and that she was the leader of the Caledonians, and that she had come to Earth in order to fulfill biblical prophecy, that she was the woman who bore the male child in Revelation chapter 12. And it wasn't until 2010 that I discovered this, that evidence for, that her whole life was perfectly choreographed to follow those 17 verses in chapter 12. And what that she gave virgin birth in 1967, August 1st, to 2 children, a male and a female, and they were immediately taken up into space. she was also, was, as I said, the leader of a group of extraterrestrials that I now know were part of the Anunnaki, and they were responsible for trying to roll out the prophecy that is given in the Bible. So we have I was directly involved with the beings that were part of what Richard says were the group that was enslaving mankind and trying to bring about the compliance and worship of them. And Kahra was, interestingly enough, means a spirit of goddess, and she was the goddess that the Egyptians, the Isis, Nephthys, Set, and Osiris worshipped back during that period of time. She is also the writer of the Quran, the scripture in the Quran, and she said she is that the Judeo-Christian Bible is her biography. So I had direct contact with the very beings that Richard was saying, and Janet, you say, are trying to control humanity.
Okay. Are you done? You complete?
I'm done. Is that enough?
Thank you very much. Cool. That's sufficient. Thank you. I'm going to go on to Theresa. Hold on. There we go. Turn on mic. There you go.
Now I hear unmuted. Now I hear it. Okay.
Now,
regarding work. Okay. Regarding me and the way I identify and I witness is the words we're talking about are only of stories that have been created by thought forms. And many thought forms where I relate to who I am after dying many times in this reality is life after life and life after death. So in those realities where I am presently, it's like interdimensional travel, is the fact that I know I'm here now in this reality, but it's like I would prefer to use the term of entertainment and gaming because this is a radio show on radio waves that we're creating together, so we're all creators. Now, this is the same way that humanoids have met on the planet in order to have a physical reality to entertain each other on a learning planet or to some prison planet. So that's where a lot of these dualistic words come from. But in my level of education, above this reality and above this dimension is we're working in spaces that you can't even imagine on the planet because in this reality, I've been in them, and I can't explain how you can walk into a home or a ship 30 by 30 and it open up to a whole nother reality. So we're working on that, and right now they're called magnetic monopoles, according to Dr. Richard Allen Miller. So I'm here learning to communicate and work with ontologists. But regarding the Anunnaki, that is one of the stories that was written on this planet by people of before they could read and write, really, so they had scribes do fired clay tablets. And that is about, the word Anunnaki means those from the heavens came in human earth language that we call the business language or American English. So most theologians are aware of that, as is the intelligence community. But I can say that in this reality, that is why Iraq, they had people go in and destroy most of the Anunnaki museums in Iraq to get rid of that story. So, stories get ruined on this planet. So I'm very upset about that in this reality as a three-dimensional humanoid. So I'll end it with that. Oh, heaven and hell. Yes, those are man-made descriptions in geology. And on a timeline, I've described it in a science book for the Chinese. And 0 in cyberspace is -1 and +1. Everything's 0. Therefore, put it in math. It's just a language.
Thank you. Okay, my turn. Okay. So, Anunnaki, Anu was the king in Nibiru, and Ki is the name of earth. That those who came from heaven, the Viru, where Anu lived, and they are his people that he sent here to Ki, to earth, to establish a colony. And that's according to the Sumerian story. It's written in Shemiah form. So the accuracy of the original writer, was it science fiction, was it science fact? Back then they seemed to be trying to write down the history to leave for humanity, and we are their children. So the mining story, yeah, it could be a story. You know, all these are stories. Everybody here today's telling stories. We have all these stories written. We don't know the true motivation of the original authors of any of these stories. Were they intending it to be fact or fiction, or anything in between? Heaven and hell, according to the Anunnaki story, heaven, of course, was Nibiru. So if you were going to go, you were chosen to go back to Nibiru to visit King Anu, to go to the home planet. You know, that was a very honored thing to do, but they didn't let just anybody in, you know. The humans weren't allowed in. Even some of the gods, they were forbidden to return to heaven, to Nibiru. But, and then the hell part, hell was known as the Absu, the South African mines, and they still exist. So Michael Tellinger has all this information, videos and books about, he lives in South Africa and the mines, and he's found ancient lab where he created Homo sapiens, and there's all these stone henges throughout, you know, Africa that it would have taken millions of people to make them, and there's no explanation because the population wasn't large enough to make these based on how old they are. But you know, as for a spiritual place, you know, I've been dead and came back, and I've worked with the dead, and they seem to have, it's like a state of being, whether they experience heaven, you know, good experiences after they die. I think that's another whole thing. George Harrison kept saying the names of God, so at the moment of death he would meet God. So a lot of people do things to try to end up on a good side, and if you go to the stories about people when they die and they come back, or they do, what do you call it, regression to the life between lives. You know, there's lots of stories of where you go, and based on what you believe or think is kind of what you carry with you. So I will end with that. And let's see, we have 46 minutes. We probably have time for one more question. Let's go back to Theresa. What question would you like to ask our panel, and start with yourself with answering it? Theresa, are you there? Okay, we'll come back to Theresa. She's not responding. Okay, Bruce, what question would you like to ask the panel, and answer it yourself first?
Okay. What I got involved with was a prophecy that was being fulfilled by one of the Anunnaki, who claims to have been, claims to be Kahra, the goddess worshipped by the other lower demigods of ancient Egypt. But she also told me that she was Nin Kursag, who was the mother of Enlil and Enki, and of humanity in general. But what was fascinating by all of this is that I got to meet her children, which were actually, I was the sperm provider, and they are essentially the offspring of Kahra and Bonnie and me.
Bruce, in the interest
and who are they? So who are they? And what I came to realize, the children, and especially my son, whose name is Kyle. And what I came to realize is that he is the male child described in Revelation chapter 12, which is the reincarnation of the Christ Spirit, and he is the Messiah. He's now 53 years old, and he's very close to coming down. he's a pilot of a spacecraft, and he's going to come down and assume his position as the prophecy, old and new prophecy of the Bible proclaim. So that's basically my contribution from what I've learned. But we also know that this is part of the Anunnaki deception.
Okay, Richard. What do you think?
Okay.
What's your response to Bruce's question?
Well, I'm trying to decipher precisely the question.
Okay,
Bruce, you were very, very eloquent and very knowledgeable. So therefore, you were putting on a presentation as well as couching a question in the midst of it. Yeah. So if you could couch it for me more succinctly, I would be most appreciative.
Yeah, you're both
okay.
I'd like to go on for both of you. Yeah.
Okay. Basically, is the Messiah going to return as the Bible prophesies?
Okay. First and foremost, if we are addressing the lineage and incarnation of Christ himself, that whole story has been manipulated through various royalties and various ascendancies and all kinds of different houses that in turn, basically have reworded the Bible into 18 different versions, into 14 different languages. Okay, so there is the truest sense of the Bible itself is the language that Christ himself spoke while he was present on the earth, which is Aramaic. All right? So the Aramaic Bible holds the truest content as far as what is recognized as the established or accepted Bible by those in mass. In other words, you have the Catholic Bible, you have the Greek Bible, you have the Roman Bible, and you have the Russian Bible, and you have the Ethiopian Bible, and you have the German Bible, and you have the Christian Bible, and so on and so forth. And all of these are parallel stories, but in different languages, and when you take the same story and translate it into a different language, it begins to transform and have different meaning. So, in reference to the second coming of Christ, as the book of Revelations was revealed to you by and from, as portrayed by John, it has already happened. The reason being that you see the whole message of Christ, which was never thoroughly understood because it was spoken in parables unto the masses, withholding the sacred truth to only his disciples or apostles at the time, was basically one consistent of majorly 3 golden rules, one being love yourself, the second being love others as you would love yourself, and the third one being treat all others as you would treat yourself. So basically the standards of love and full acceptance of the self. Now, of course, we could get into an hours-long dialogue as to what the self consists of, but the Christ, basically in principle, as a being, entity, and conscious message as to what he was diversely projecting unto the Jewish masses and, of course, the Roman Empire at the time of his alleged incarnation. And I say alleged only because, again, it's a matter of perception. In this reality where there are 2 or more, you can co-create an entire complete reality just based on the 2 of your thoughts melded together in an interdimensional and multiversal universe, okay? So I say that Christ has already reappeared is because his gift unto mankind was the message that all of us are, in fact, Christ conscious, and that as such, he lives in our hearts from the aspect being of the understanding and sharing of love.
Oh, thank you. Okay, on to Susan. Great answer. All right. Hold on, let me put this on. Thank you, Richard. Taking you off for now. Susan, what's your response? Who is the Messiah? Is he returning?
I think
is she returning?
I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure exactly what part of the Bible is true, and it's been so misconstrued and interpreted in many different ways. It's hard to tell exactly what the persona of the Messiah really is, or if in fact he returned or anything. I'm saying the Christ was actually referring to the Christ priesthood, which is a belief system, like a philosophy, from what I'm understanding. And when they say Jesus, they mean Jesus of the Christ. That's what they meant. As far as him being the original Messiah and everything, that's up for debate. That's where the Jewish religion comes from, because they don't believe that their Messiah came yet. As far as is he already here? I'm not so sure if there is a second return. I do know that it could even be a parable that might even be mirroring the fact that on Ancient Aliens, the series, they say that, oh, well, we're going to return. And then a lot of the Ancient Alien cast are saying, no, they never left. Well, it could be that the return of Christ could be the return of the Anunnaki, or the return of the representative of the Anunnaki or something. And I think that's why there's a big presence right now on the backside of the sun and the earth and the solar system, because they're aware of this so-called return of the Anunnaki. And make no mistake, they're evil, they're parasitic, and they feed off of other entities. They are the disembodied entities that have taken on lower evolved forms, and they use their vessels and they confiscate them so that they can have nefarious activities. Evil has no rhyme or reason. It's like a cancer in a patient. It doesn't have any logical reason. It's just a parasite. It feeds off of everything. And I think that the Bible and everything, along with the other religions, were specifically designed to subjugate and assert and dummy down the masses, and along with the God gene complex that was put into the human genome to screw them up, to make them have to worship something greater than themselves, instead of having their own self-awareness, self-preservation, self-integration, and self-integration and expansion. And I don't think there's going to be a return, because I don't think the Christ really existed. I think it might have been a parable by the Anunnaki themselves, through the Bible, the evil Roman Empire and the evil elite, to go ahead and control and subjugate the masses. And I think the Christ's return is in fact the return of the Anunnaki. I think that's what the symbolism means.
Wow. Great answer. Thank you. Lots to think about. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get Theresa to answer this question. I hope her phone is working. Hold on one second. Thank you, Susan. Theresa, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Can you hear me?
Who's the Messiah, and is the Messiah returning?
Well, it depends, again, on ontology, and it depends on the person or the data package of thought forms and intelligence that the question being asked. It's like Q in Star Trek, okay? But I believe that Dr. Bruce is referring to what in America and in theology is one of the Christian beliefs, as well as the Jews, as Susan referred to. So these are words, folks. These are stories, and these are thought forms to separate the masses. Now, what I understand about people dying is there's been many people on the planet that have waited for a Messiah. Now, the way science interprets the Christ in thought forms is like some famous people said, is, the greatest day is when you're born, and the second part of you is knowing why. And the Christ Messiah, I do write. I'm a writer, and I use Christ consciousness as a ministry for the universal life forms. And in the universes, we all know that people, as humanoids, get together, and in order to tell themselves that they are going to be okay as individuals, they create critical mass consciousness. So Christ, the Messiah, is the critical mass conscious of the word God, but we've had many at many levels of meritocracy. But when you're God realized, as in the old New Age, which is no more because we have the Ascension Age now, the Ascension Age embodies the Christ consciousness in the new epoch of what we call time and space. So that's the answer is people come and go from this planet expecting to be saved from. So what it is the packet of intelligence inside your consciousness that you know that inside of biological, that is your you. How you think of as you, I. And when you think of the Christ consciousness, the Messiah is the we, you, they thought forms on the outside of you. So once you grow up and become awakened, you realize the inner and the outer is yes. There is no other. So there is no minus, there is no plus. There's only zero, which is all encompassing the Messiah Christ consciousness. Done.
Excellent. Wonderful answer. Wonderful. Okay, I'll take a stab at this one. Okay. So the Anunnaki introduced the story of the Messiah, so people would keep looking outside of themselves for the answer, for someone to come in and rescue them, which is a way of disempowering humans, because humans, if they were dealing with too many humans and not enough Anunnaki. There was a couple incidents where humans realized that the Anunnaki could be harmed, they could be, they bled, that they had a form that was vulnerable. So they started religions in order to control the masses. So they started introducing this Messiah. Look for someone outside yourself. You can't do it yourself. There's no way you can ever do it yourself. And that kept them from realizing that we are all Christ consciousness. On the higher level, we have the spiritual aspect. Who are these beings that come down periodically and walk among the sentient species of the planet and to help them evolve and become conscious and enlightened? Now, the historical Jesus, according to the Anunnaki and according to the researchers that I've worked with my own research, was actually Enki. And Enki, because he was such a long-time immortal being, wherever he traveled, he would get different names. So he's known by many names. In Egypt, he was Ptah, and he was Aquarius, he was, Neptune, Poseidon. He's got many names. And so do the gods. They all have many names because they were so long-lived and even so short-lived. But the wedding in Cana is actually the wedding between Jesus and Nimma. And Nimma is Mary and Jesus is Enki. Nimma and Enki were forbidden to marry because in order to settle a rivalry with the opposing faction, Anu had Enki wed Damkina, who was the daughter of the opposing force, in order to make a truce so they would stop the wars on Nibiru. So that hurt Nimma tremendously. She went off and got pregnant by Enlil. Their son was Ninurta. So finally, many thousands of years later, they worked through the politics of their family, and they said, screw this, we're getting married. So that's what the wedding at Cana was. The two of them finally got married, and they never left, and they're still walking around. And Mary, of course, is came to Fatima, and she's the Lady of Guadalupe, and he walked around into the Americas, and he's the big, tall, white guy that they were waiting for to return, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my humble opinion, but what do I know? Okay, we're going to put this, we have enough time probably for one more question. We're going to turn on Theresa's mic. Question for the group, and answer it yourself. Take it away.
Is it for Theresa? Is it Mike? Okay.
Yes,
regarding all right, thank you. I consider everybody a part of the Christ consciousness or the thought forms. And as individuals, we all have an I, and as I said, the we, you, they. And this is all up for exchange now because of the way we're working together on the planet as a critical mass consciousness. So now we're involving AI, which I'm very familiar with off planet because everything is biological, but everything's also AI. So my question is, in this reality while we're here, how can we each help each other form a story line beginning now for supporting each other in fellowship? I don't know, is that a question that I asked? I think it should be in this AI reality, accepting that we're all data packs in thought forms in this game of life. How can we all support each other while we're witnessing, I guess, each other in this reality? I'm not sure how to say it.
And what is your? That's good. What's your answer? My
answer is show up and understand that we're communicating in cyberspace to create community. So I'm doing my best to show up and communicate and create community. So that's my answer to my own during this time of AI. What can we do to support each other? Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, thanks. I'm going to turn the mic on to Richard. Richard, your turn.
Okay, that's a very, very interesting question, to say the least. And my take on it would be this. In order to come together to create a harmonic unity, we must, of course, form an alliance amongst all of ourselves that are present, those of us more pronounced or more out in the manner of speaking, making others aware around them of who they are and where they truly come from and where, in fact, they are, what their mission is here to accomplish. If we greet each other not simply in the physical body, mind, and heart, but in the supraconscious, Christ-conscious, or even, as we would say, complete spiritual core awareness, the core of each of our beings greets the core of each of all of the rest of the beings present, however they so term, understand, perceive, and outreach from their inner selves to the community or to form the community on Earth. If we take it not purely from the human, but blend it with the awareness and an awakening and an ascension unto the core being of all those present here on the Earth, then in turn there would be a harmonic unity of communication, not purely on the physical or verbal level, but also on the intuitive level, and also in an exchange of a core multidimensional being of light unto another core being, multidimensional being of light. And this harmonic focus would then in turn begin to terraform and reconstruct this entire environment and all the communities around the Earth to become once again in harmonic resonance, which would in turn also fulfill the prophecy of the age of Aquarius.
Wonderful.
And that is my answer.
That's good. Thank you so much. Awesome answer. Okay, so let me turn on Susan's mic. How do we create community? How do we support each other?
You got to recognize you got to recognize your planetary identity, your universal identity, and your soul identity, which is your first point of inception and creation, whether it's this universe or an alternate one. Realize your true point of origin and your true soul group and everything, and realize the other races that you're trying to help or intervene on an ontological level, and always for the good.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? We have about 30 seconds. Are you complete?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, Bruce. Oops, hold on. Sorry, Bruce. There we go. You have to click that just right. Okay, there you go.
Essentially, I mean, I am impressed with all of the comments being made here, from Richard to Susan to TJ to Janet, and what I was trying to present is this concept that if there is going to be a human representation of the Messiah, just as many believe there was at the time Jesus was on earth, will the public believe that he is who he claims to be? That I doubt will happen. I suspect that if somebody were to claim he is the Messiah, you would have as much acceptance and dissent as you did 2,000 years ago. And I don't think that's going to be the solution to bringing people together. And I don't think that there is going to be a single savior that can change all of the problems that we have created for ourselves. We need to correct our own, clean up our own house before we begin to want others to clean up theirs.
Excellent. Are you complete?
Only that I want to say that for the sake of the information being presented, that as Susan said, that that she didn't think that Jesus actually existed, that he is more a myth. Well, that has been held by many people, and yet it's too bad that you didn't invite Tommy Sinisi on this show, because he claims to have lived at the time of Jesus and to have known Jesus personally. And so he could correct that misconception. Then you have the Gnostics, who didn't think that Jesus came in the flesh, but that he was mainly spirit, and the Christ spirit. And that's why the Catholic Church, the original church, tried to destroy the Gnostics. They get rid of that concept, but it has come back. It is resurrected in 1949 with the Gnostic manuscripts that were found in the desert.
Right. Okay, well, I'm going to answer my answer, and then I'm going to turn on all the mics, and I want everybody to play nice with each other. But I just wanted to say, but in psychology, one way we can create community is to witness each other. And we witness each other without judgment, without criticism, without trying to fix or repair, because none of us are broken. But witnessing is the first level to healing, especially if you can be witnessed without judgment, criticism, somebody trying to fix or repair you in your true, authentic self. And ideally, it'd be great to witness each other in our true expression in the moment. So if somebody wants to be angry, they could be angry, and you just witness them being angry, and we, applaud and say, "Good job, you really did." If they want to be loving, whatever their true emotion is, as long as you're not hitting somebody, you don't let anybody hurt anybody. But if it's within themselves, and that's what they're doing, that's fine. And so, what we've done in our communities here, we've had experiments in conscious community here on our property. My husband came here in 1979, and this has been like a little hippie community. Learning to grow food and supporting each other. And I can't say that we had a lot of success, although, each period was successful in of itself. I would like to see us, and that's why this vision of this radio show is to come and we witness each other. And I'd like to see each of us on this panel and others that we find that bring to the radio show that we do our timeline. And what I mean by our timeline is you take your story and you think, from your current now self, and you go back in time to 20 or 30 critical incidents in your life that kind of shaped you as to who you are today, and that you never forgot, like a dream you never forgot, and you write them down, 1 to 20, 1 to 30, how many you have, but no more than 30, and you give them a name, like the time my mother hit me, right? And what did that mean to be hit when you never been hit before? Or, something, the time I was taken on board the ship, whatever it is, it can be whatever it is. And then what I'd like to do in future shows is each person, we witness them in their 20 to 30 episodes, and we help them integrate and fill that out, and of course no fixing, repairing, criticism, and then we do the next person. And so that's one of my concepts. So now we have 19 minutes left in the show, and there is somebody on hold, and I'm afraid to turn it on because the last time I got all these obscenities. But I'm going to turn on the mics of our panel members. I'm going to walk away from this for just a minute because I have to do something. And I invite everybody to just go free flow, and it's called popcorn. The one who has the most to share will probably emerge as soon as I walk away. And please be mindful, there's only 18 minutes left, and when you're done, say, I'm passing the mic. And then the next person speaks, and try not to cross-talk. I'll be back in just a minute. Take it away, panelists.
Will you mute yourself, Janet? And we usually do this by time, so there's 4 of us, so that'd be 4 minutes each with a closeout for Janet at 2 minutes. So anybody got a timepiece? I don't, but she started, this used to be Friday nights with me for UFO Secret Space, so I don't know what it is now, but Susan, Bruce, and Richard have been invited, so I yield my time if somebody will keep up with 4 minutes each, whoever's got a timepiece. Next.
Yeah, Theresa, I wanted to try to get a hold of you, and it's hard. Is there any other way I can get a hold of you? Because we had a really interesting conversation, and we were talking about the ontological basis of being an identity, and then we went on to something else. Oh, the F-16 that crashed in Michigan. And then you said it was caused by something else. Specifically, I was trying to get a hold of you. The question I had for you was, what do you know about the so-called bunker buster incident that happened in Maine, which was December 17th?
A lot on both sides of the storyline, but can we do this offline? So you can get in touch with me as director at Oh, wait. Let me give you UAP. Excuse me, I'm still old paradigm UFO. New paradigm, director at UAP.associates. And that is where they're combining all my Microsoft and Gmail and my personal domains of about 35 different domains with GoDaddy in cyberspace. So if you'll direct your email to me and you and I on phone, do you do Skype?
Yeah, I do Skype.
Perfect. My name is TJ Morris, E.T. And all you have to do is schedule a meeting with me by contacting me and making me a friend on Skype. And I do 15, 30-minute intervals. But for you and me just to be one-on-one as friends, no problem. It's just, I'm going to be honest with you. Once you cross my path, which apparently you've done, I'm a soul traveler, and I pretty much have already.
I didn't hear you're cutting out.
I'm sorry. Just
Hello?
so you know, I'm a soul. Okay, let's see.
Hello?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I'm back.
All I heard was once you cross my path, which you've done, and then that's it.
And then you faded. Yeah.
Hello?
Okay.
I heard the whole thing perfectly clear. That's
it's
bizarre.
all blank.
That's bizarre because I heard everything that TJ had to say.
Okay, can you hear me now?
This format isn't is kind of a little bit flawed. I'm thinking of taking this show to Zoom, and we could try that next week on a Zoom format. You don't have to show your face if you're shy. You can just keep your camera off. But we might get a better recording because there's something about, oh, we lost Susan. Okay. There's something about this format which is flawed.
Well,
I'll try to call her back.
It's not just the format. It's that when you have beings that are fully awakened and conscious all gathered in one place, we have a tendency to blow circuits on satellites and other communication devices and create static in those systems, and as a result, it interferes with communications that you're trying to have between any pair of given individuals for conference calls.
Oops. Wait, I got to do that without sound. Okay. There's a way of calling without having the sound. Calling sound. Okay, there we go. I'm trying to get Susan back on. Okay, go ahead, Richard. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Can you hear me?
No, it's okay because you see, you were addressing an anomaly because Bruce and Susan did not perceive the last pronunciation of TJ's means of sharing the best way to get in communication with her, and I had no interruption whatsoever. This was only experienced in program between TJ, Bruce, and Susan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's kind of a bizarre anomaly in a manner of speaking. But again,
can
it
you
shows
hear me?
that there's, I hear you fine.
Okay.
We can
still hear you.
Weird. A lot of people can't hear me or get in touch with me, Janet. I don't know what that's about. Apparently,
we don't know.
Richard has insight. But that's
well,
okay.
if we're speaking cyberspace, you're talking about walls creating themselves and dissolving themselves, and dimensions creating space, and black holes and wormholes and portals all showing up at the same time, and beings from all kinds of different dimensions, like myself, showing up at one time.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So we can talk multiverses, and we'll have to create those threads. But apparently different people want to know lower level, what I call three-dimensional thought forms that they're in their reality. It's like a game of life, but there's various paradigms and dimensions and realms. And so we have to do meritocracy, which people don't like to do. But unfortunately, most of the demigods and gods that I've known in the past and in the future and in the now, past, present, future, because there's no space, there's no time, in the photon clouds, of the thought packet consciousness,
I'm well aware
the reality.
of this.
That's what we're all working on, is who we're going to be in the future, is the way it's said. But actually, it's us in the now. And I'm in the future, and I'm in the past, and I'm in the present. And I'm okay with that. But I like being up there at the universal level, and that's the story that Janet wants me to tell. So that's the one we're working on. I work in multi-levels. Just so you know, I'll quote Beta, Alpha, Theta, Delta, Gamma, Sigma, Tau. We use 7 levels, not like you said, just conscious, or you said super conscious, but we were teaching that in the 30s and 40s. But now we're working with people, and that's okay, folks. We're all telling stories, but we are going to use I guess radio for a little while with Bruce and Richard and Susan and Janet, and I guess anybody else Janet invites. But Friday nights, we were both doing this, so I've got TJ Morse ET radio, and I syndicate and have my own
TJ?
Bills. And
Yeah, Susan, I don't want to talk finances. Susan is back.
Okay,
back.
Susan,
She had
I'm sorry, go
you.
ahead.
Let's use the time for productive. Susan, go ahead. Ask your questions of TJ.
Yeah, TJ, what was that address you were given again? And then you said something about once you cross paths with me, and you've crossed my path, and then we had all this trouble after that.
I was going to say, I hope you can stay in contact, because so many people are trying to work at critical mass consciousness in 5G right now, that the radio waves and the microwaves and all the waves we have are all messed up. But please try TJ Morse ET on Skype. I have Google Calendar. Janet needs to make a forum, or I do. I have Blog Talk Radio, and she has Blog Talk Radio. But Susan, I'll be glad to bring you back on my show separate from this one, and we can talk some more. Everybody that wants to interview with me, I'll do that. So I don't know. Janet's the only one, and Tommy, that have ever been able to contact me on this planet and stay with me. Now, Richard
I don't
has
seem
been
to
able
be having
to.
any problem.
I know Richard doesn't have any problem. So, Susan, I guess
I'm
it
not.
depends on.
I'm not really human.
Well, yeah. So, Bruce, I don't think Bruce has ever had trouble. Have you, Bruce?
With what? Communicating with you?
Yeah.
Reaching her, yes.
Oh no.
Interesting.
Huh.
Harder
I've got her on Skype. I get messages from Skype.
Okay, well, let's try that, Susan. And I got a phone number. You want it?
Wait.
You want my phone number? 850-781. 850-781.
Wait a second. I gotta get something to write it down.
You can call me after the show. Janet
yeah,
can hook
you
you
probably
up
should put that information out independently, privately, rather than putting it on the air.
Yeah, because I've got so many people trying to get me on all my phones, so I apologize, everybody. They've got all the lines tied up to me, and I've had people coming in my house, and they're trying to fix it. Thank you. Janet, just keep us together.
Okay.
Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, so if you're going to give out the phone, it's going out to everywhere. Do you want to give out your phone, TJ, or do you want to do that on the email? You can do that.
You can give it. You can give it to her. Give it to her off because I'm not sure this one's publicized. All the others are blasted out, full blast.
Yeah, well, you didn't. It wasn't. It wasn't
Wait a minute.
completely 10 digits
visible.
It wasn't
all
completely
those
10
spammers
digits
would
visible.
get it. All those people that do commercials would get it.
So anyway,
you will no longer have to worry
wait
about
a minute.
them. But anyway,
I'm having a hard time talking. It's like everybody's talking through me, and then I get cut off. And every time I try to get TJ Morris, I can't get her. Everybody else can get her. Somebody's interfering with me. You're a psychic,
Are you
TJ. What do you
serious?
think?
So I'm going to mute everybody so you can have the last 5 minutes talking to TJ and ask her your questions. So I'm muting everybody else. Go ahead, Susan. Ask your questions of TJ because we have like 7 minutes or 5 minutes.
Why is it when everybody else can get a hold of you with no problem, I can't? What's going on?
I think the number I gave you is one of the ones I lost. I don't know if somebody came in my house and took them because they were right here by my bed, but somehow they disappeared. So out of 4 phones I own, 1 landline in the house, I've only got the one I'm talking on. And Janet will give that to you so you can call me after. Janet, apparently Susan really wants to talk to me. It's just one-on-one, okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't understand. I want to ask you a psychic question.
Oh,
no,
sure.
You're a psychic, right?
Yes, ma'am. I'm an empath, cognitive, a precog. I claim all of that. I'm Cosmos Ambassador. I work on all levels.
Okay.
Beta, Alpha, Theta, Delta, Gamma, Sigma, Tau.
Okay, then, in relation to that, what am I? I'm on the real high councils, right, from the other universe, multiverse, and all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I the only one here on the planet for my people?
No, ma'am. I am you. You are me. We are they.
You're my other one. Where are you from? Which universe?
The 7th.
The one I'm from is Fortean or Fortean universe.
I didn't hear that. What? You're a universal being. I can't hear. Can anybody tell me what she's saying?
I can hear her
you're
totally
speaking
fine.
Universal. That's weird. I can't hear her. All right, so it's universal levels. We're having trouble in bandwidth and vibrations and sounds, and that's because the language we speak, Susan, isn't modified. So we've got to speak in our biological. So first of all, we have to accept our biological forms and become humanoids. And then we've got to find each other on the planet. So it's part of the game. And it's not the easiest game I've ever played because they made me a communication officer.
It's not part of the game. It's part of direct interference by the negative ET scourge because they don't want us to connect.
Okay. All right. Well, it's however you interpret it. So I apologize. I don't think it's on my part, Susan, so please don't take it personal. I'm a very open, I'm actually a personality on Facebook, so please connect with me on Facebook. But most of the time people think I'm on Facebook, but I'm not. I'm a developer inside GoDaddy. So I have a probe core, a cPanel, and it's a different level. And then so when I punch buttons in domains, it goes into Facebook. But I'll be more than happy to assist you.
How do I get a hold of you? How do I call you? Do I Skype you? Do I Messenger you? You have an iPhone.
Yeah,
can I Messenger you?
Skype her.
You can Messenger me.
For now.
Janet, please give her my phone number when we get off. Janet has a direct line to you, and when she disconnected us, we got disconnected.
You said okay.
Oh, yeah, I thought you had already exchanged numbers.
No, I couldn't get a hold of her. I called her and I get the answer machine every single fucking time, and it's a mixed garbled up. It's like Happy New Year, like that. All garbled. Happy New Year. That's all I could get out of it every time I try to call you.
Interesting. Okay. It sounds like we're being interfered with.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like.
Okay.
I wanted to ask her. You heard the book Masquerade of Angels. I'm getting echo feedback in my voice.
Right. So let's wrap this up because we're out of time anyway. So let me pull on Richard. Final words, Richard. Say whatever you want to say to our listeners.
We thank all of our lovely listeners out there in Cyberland, or from whatever perspective or perception you are perceiving us in. We greet you with love. We greet you with heartfelt warmth, healing, and wish you the highest possible ascension to become your highest possible good in the here and now.
Lovely.
And
thank you. Bruce, final words to our listeners. Oops, wait. Got to click you on. Sorry. Your mic was off. You're probably talking away. Go ahead, Bruce. Final words.
Open your minds
our listeners.
And open your hearts to new information. That is the time you will grow and ascend.
Thank you. Susan, final words to our listeners.
Get in tune with oneself and trust your gut and your intuition, and don't react to everything that's different with a knee-jerk, fear-mongering, want to attack it kind of reaction. Instead, start interacting with it empathically. Try to sense what the entities and what they are, and don't fall for the sadistic entities that are portrayed in the book called The Masquerade of Angels.
Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody on our panel, Susan, Richard, Bruce, and Theresa. Thank you, listeners, for joining in.
Thank you.
We will be back again next Friday. Actually, it is Christmas special show with Richard Knight.